Hey guys, Jared, Transformational Coaching, Action is Transformation. In this video, we're going to get into why does your husband or your man shut down whenever an argument starts. Ironically, men aren't really good at arguing or dealing with stress. A lot of the times there's this belief that we think men are actually better at dealing with stress, but biologically this isn't true at all. Whenever a man perceives a threat, naturally he gets really hard and defensive real quickly. And this is because of our evolutionary past. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to keep that from happening and why that happens in the first place. And then I'm actually going to break down a video clip from the Notebook, which has a lot of great examples where men shut down and then where the relationship starts going south and how you can actually prevent that from happening. So let's get into it. Men are hardwired to deal with conflict in a way that isn't useful, at least in interpersonal relationships. And this is because of our evolutionary past. So what happens is a man goes out into the wild and he goes to hunt and bring back, the food. And he's rewarded by natural selection to go and do this because the well-being of the entire camp depends on him hardening and being resilient. He's actually rewarded for it. Whereas women, it's the complete opposite. Women have been rewarded or biologically rewarded to stay calm, because when they stay calm, they can actually produce more milk, and milk is necessary for raising the young and continuing on the genetic line. So there's this really big evolutionary reason as to why women are actually better at dealing with conflict than men are. Men automatically shut down, and usually what happens in a relationship dynamic is when the woman brings up a sensitive issue, the man doesn't know how to deal with it, and he gets really nervous and overwhelmed, and so he just shuts down, and then she feels that shutdown and that disconnect, and then he starts getting more upset, and then she starts getting more upset, and then he says, whoa, wait. Like, why are you all of a sudden all up in my grill? Why are you nagging me? You're acting crazy right now. And so then there's all these accusations and defenses and stonewalling and disconnect, and that can become a relationship pattern in and of itself. And so there's some things that we can do in order to prevent that from happening, because I see this in relationships all the time. I was just coaching one of my clients the other day, and this happened. She was really upset. She didn't know how to handle the issue, and she saw this pattern in the relationship. And so what I shared with her was this next 3 steps that I'm going to share with you guys so you can actually keep the relationship open, keep him from stonewalling or getting cold or getting overwhelmed, because anytime that your husband or the male stonewalls and gets really hard within himself or fires back, it's that retaliation effect kicking in. It's that biological hardwiring of you got to stay in it, you got to win it. We're biologically hardwired that way because that's what helps the community thrive. But it's not helpful for interpersonal relationships. So there's some things that we can do in order to keep that from happening. So I'm going to share with you those 3 things. Number 1, let him know that he might get triggered and upset with what you're about to share with him. The best thing that you can do is soften the delivery. If you expect that he's going to get hard and close himself off, then what you want to do in that instance is soften your delivery so it doesn't overwhelm his system. There's this concept called flooding, and flooding is when we feel overwhelmed psychologically and emotionally. So what happens is we just shut down. We shut down completely because our system is already overwhelmed. We can't take in any information. And a lot of the times this is exactly what happens with men. Because if the significant other or their spouse says, hey, I want to talk about this issue, you've been acting this way and this way and this way, sometimes they'll shut down as a means of self-protection. They don't know how to handle all the information that's coming at them. So in order to reduce psychological overwhelm or emotional overwhelm, they completely harden. So one of the best ways that you can do to counteract that is simply say, hey, this might affect you. You might get upset when I say this, but I want us to work through it. Can you do that with me? And you invite them into the conversation instead of just dropping it onto them. That's the first thing. Number 2 is don't accuse the character. Address the behavior. So I'm going to say that again. Don't accuse the character. Address the behavior. What happens in a lot of relationships is we'll tell a person what they're doing wrong. For instance, we'll say, you're always mean. You're a mean person. Instead of saying, hey, the fact that you forgot my birthday really hurt me. One is addressing the behavior, forgetfulness, whereas the other is addressing or accusing the character, you're a mean person. So we want to be aware of how we're making accusations. Don't accuse a person's character. Address the behavior. Hey, your forgetfulness really hurts me. Not, you're a mean person, you're forgetful. That's accusing the character. We always want to address the behavior, not the character. Because as soon as we address the other person's quote-unquote character, they feel like it's an attack. And whenever we're feeling attacked, naturally we stonewall and we get emotionally closed off and we don't want to connect. And that's where the relationship starts going south, because then people feel this loss of connection and then it all ends. So we want to address not the character, but the behavior. When you do that, you'll see the argument doesn't necessarily rise as quickly as it used to, because the person doesn't feel attacked. They see their behavior outside of themselves. And finally, number 3, allow for space. Many of the times we want to solve issues, relationship issues right away, because we have this anxious attachment style and we just want to solve it so we can feel good again in the relationship. But a lot of the best things that we can do a lot of the times is to give space. Allow the person room and space to be with themselves. Sometimes men need space so they can not feel so overwhelmed, because a lot of the times if men get defensive, it's because they're feeling too much and they don't know how to handle their emotions, so they actually need space. So if you see your man needing space, or if he shuts down, the best thing that you can do is say, hey, look, I know you're shut down right now. I know you don't feel connected to me. Maybe it's just best that we take 20 or 30 minutes off, or a little bit of time off. And then when you're feeling like you're in a calm place and it's best to talk about it, then we can talk about it again. And I want you to know that I still love you. I still care about you. I know you're frustrated, and I'm a little frustrated right now, but I think it's best if we get some space so we can readdress this issue when we're both in a better space to communicate. There's times to argue and argue well, and there's times not to argue at all. And a good time to not argue is when your emotions are high and there's a lot of stress in the situation. And I'll get more on that in another video, on the right ways to fight and the right ways to have conflict, because there's nothing wrong with conflict. It's just doing it the right way. So the best thing that we can do is give them space and allow them space, but then also let them know that you're coming back to the conversation. You're coming back to the relationship. You're not just giving them space and shutting down and saying, okay, this relationship isn't going to happen. Because if that's the concern, well, then they might not trust it, and then they'll attach even more. So you want to give them space, but also acknowledge and let them know, I really care about you, and I'm not leaving the relationship. I'm just simply needing space so we can actually work through this in a healthy way, instead of being caught up in this emotional fire and then losing the relationship. Now let's actually break this down. I love the movie The Notebook, not because I think it's a great movie for romance. It's actually a really horrible movie for romance. It's just got so many bad examples of what we think love is in our culture. And it's filled with drama, unnecessary drama. It's filled with a lot of bad relational and communication skills. It's a great story from a writer's perspective, but in terms of actually having a good, healthy relationship, it's a horrible example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down this scene and show you exactly what they could have done better and where it could have gone instead of what they did. Let's get into it. So in this point in the movie, they've already established that there's this deep love connection between the two of them. But what's happening is she's going back and forth. She wants a man of security and finances, but he's not fun and happy, whereas Ryan Gosling is this really fun and happy guy. but he doesn't have that financial security as well, and he's not at that higher level of society like her family is. And so she's in this conflict. There's this commitment to want to have passion and enjoyment in the relationship, but also to have security. And so she's going back and forth between the men. And so they've just spent an entire weekend together, and he's really enjoyed it, and he wants to continue their relationship with her. And there's a part of her that wants that as well too, but at the same time, she wants the financial security. So let's kind of break this scene down so we can understand what it is that they do, where they go wrong, and where they could have done everything better.
What are you going to do, Al?
So right now, he obviously gets really upset and flips out. She's going back and forth on the commitment. There he goes. He's upset. She keeps going back and forth on the commitment. She can't make a decision. And so he gets really triggered.
They happen, you know?
I know that they happened, and they were wonderful. But they were also very irresponsible. I have a fiance waiting for me at a hotel who's going to be crushed when he finds out
So you make
what I
love
did.
to me, and then you go back to your husband? Was that your plan? Was that a test that I didn't pass?
I made a promise to a man. He gave me a ring, and I gave him my word.
And your word is shot to hell now, don't you think?
I don't know. I'll find out when I talk to him.
This is not about keeping your promise, and it's not about following your heart. It's about security.
What is that supposed to mean?
Money!
What are you talking?
He's got a lot of money.
Now I hate you, you
Well, I hate
bastard.
you. If you leave here, I hate you.
What?
I hate you if you...
So that's probably the worst thing that you could do is make accusations. So right there, Ryan Gosling's trying to find the underlying reasons as to why she's behaving the way she is. And he's making right accusations, but nonetheless, they're accusations. And so she feels attacked. And whenever we feel attacked, what happens is we attack back, which is the exact emotional dynamic that they're going into right now. A better thing that Ryan Gosling could have said was, I understand that a part of you wants to be financially secure and he can give that to you. And I understand that another part of you wants to be passionate and have fun. And that's what I am to you. I can't give you the financial piece, but I can give you the fun piece. And I would like for us to have a relationship and be happy together. Now, this might seem like really boring, but ultimately, it's exhausting getting caught up in these fights. I think they did these types of fights for like 10 or 15 years in the movie. So we don't actually have to accuse the other person of what's really going on. We can just let them know, hey, what's that about? You go to him and then you come to me and you sleep with me. What's that about? Instead of making accusations, he made an accusation saying, oh, was that your plan? Like she was being deceitful or manipulative. Obviously, she doesn't want to be deceitful or manipulative, but she just is confused. And so instead of accusing her of being deceitful and manipulative, which is a negative world view or perception of her, the better way he could have done it, it would have just been to said, what's that about? You go to him and then you come to me. What's that behavior about? But instead he makes it about himself. Oh, you're being manipulative, or oh, are you trying to deceive me? So there's a right way to go about quote unquote fighting, and it's not to attack the person's character, but rather just address the behavior. What's that behavior about?
Paying attention to anything that's been happening.
I guess not. I think I must have misread all of those signals.
I guess you did.
So at that point, what happens? The disconnect actually happens because they attacked each other's characters. They got very defensive, and because they got defensive, they both hardened, and now she's disconnecting. She's walking away, and he doesn't know what to do.
You're bored! You're bored and you know it. You wouldn't be here if there wasn't something missing.
There's son of a bitch.
Would you just stay with me?
Stay with you. What for? Look at us. We're already fighting.
Well, that's what we do. We fight. You tell me when I'm being an arrogant son of a bitch, and I tell you when you're being a pain in the ass. Which you are, 99% of the time. I'm not afraid to hurt your feelings. They have like a 2-second rebound rate, and you're back doing the next pain in the ass thing.
So what?
So it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really hard. And we're going to have to work at this every day, but I want to do that because I want you.
So right there, he's asking for what it is that he wants, and he can't give her what she ultimately wants yet, which is that financial security. So he's not being arrogant, standing up and asking for what it is that he wants. It's just that he thinks he's being arrogant because he thinks that he's asking for too much, when really in any relationship, there's nothing wrong with asking for what it is that you want. It's just making that statement saying, this is what I would like, and can you give that to me? And if you can't, then let's go our separate ways. Now, if you can give that to me, cool, great, let's move forward. But there's a part of him that continually waits for her over and over and over again. And it's like our culture thinks that this is romantic, but the reality of it is that back and forthness and that indecisiveness, that's no way to show that you care for a person. It's the exact opposite. It shows that you don't respect their feelings. It shows that you don't respect what it is that they want. So the best thing that we can actually do is just make a quick decision and come to a point where we both can commit to the relationship, address the reality of the situation. You want financial security and me to be fun, but I can only give you this. Are you willing to accept that? And if so, great. If not, then let's move on and go our separate ways. Now, she obviously is moved by this sentiment. You can see her get very emotional. He asks her to imagine the vision, but look how the conversation ends. It ends on contentment and hatred for each other. And that's not a healthy way to end any conversation, because what she wants is the financial piece, but she doesn't want to admit that. And what he wants is her to commit to him and to work for it. But when they're not giving each other what it is that they want, they both feel content for each other. And that is a negative downward spiral. So watch how this scene ends.
I want all of you forever, you and me, every day. Will you do something for me?
So she gets really moved by that, obviously. Oh my gosh, I'm really wanted and I love you.
30 years from now, 40 years from now, what's it look like? If it's with that guy, go. Go! I lost you once. I think I could do it again if I thought it's what you really wanted. But don't you take the easy way out.
What easy way? There is no easy way. No matter what I do, somebody gets hurt.
Would you stop thinking about what everyone wants?
So clearly she has a pattern of people pleasing right there. She wants to please everyone, which is why it's actually ending up projecting back to her. She's not pleasing anyone because she can't make herself happy.
What do you want?
I have to go.
So now they leave each other. There's that disconnect again. She can't make a commitment. He's upset that she can't make a commitment, and they leave everything on a bad note. What happens when we leave a relationship connection on a bad note without setting a safe container is that hate and that contempt breeds. So the best thing that we can do is address what really happens and say, look, I'm still involved in this conversation. We just have to think some things out and come to a decision. I'll give you as much space as you want, and you give me as much space as I need. And when we're ready, we can reconvene. And it's a much more adult way of handling things. And it also lets the other person know that you still care for them and the relationship. It's just that you need space. But a lot of times what happens is we don't give individuals the space they need. We cling to them because we're afraid to lose the relationship. But ultimately, when you give another person space and they give you space, and you still commit to saying, I want to be a part of this conversation, but we do need to come to a close eventually, that lets individuals feel safe to make a decision. It also allows them to feel like they're not being pressured, which if we feel like we're getting pressured into a relationship by another person, then we're going to end up hating them later on because we pressured them into it in the first place. So the best thing that we can really do is take things from a place of space. Give individuals the space that they need to make an informed decision. And then when you give them the space, let them know that you're still there and you want to continue to have this conversation. That's all I got for the video breakdown. That's all I got for this time, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. If you liked what you see in here, please subscribe and share with any family or friends. I want this to go out into the world. Also, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them below. I respond to all my comments. So if you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to share them. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Question of the day. What does a healthy romantic relationship look like to you? Does it look like something from the Notebook, or does it look like something that I described in this video? Because the reality of it is true love is actually very mundane and peaceful. It's not filled with all this drama. A lot of the times I think we want relationships that are filled with drama and excitement, but the best types of love I found are the ones where we can feel most safe and secure. Thank you so much for joining me, you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in the comments below. And then also, I do live coaching every Monday and every Thursday. So if you want to sign up for live coaching, we'd love to have you be a part of it. Check out the Sacred Relationship series in the description box below. If you're watching this on Instagram, it's above, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day, everyone.